talking about a magic wand that would, that you wave around and people would internalize the idea that public education is good and worthwhile, and we need to support it, and students need to really pay attention to how valuable it is. How did we become so kind of cynical about public education? I don't get it. I don't know when it happened. It never happened to me, but I keep reading about it, and every single day I come in and face students and think, I can't be cynical about this. It's nothing but good.
I think the biggest challenge we have is just getting through to people that we're doing a good job. I mean, that public education is here, and we always hear the negative stuff about public education, but a lot of times we don't hear the positive. And I think if we can get out that there is a lot of good going on. That like the study that said a lot of people think public education is bad except for the teachers their students have.
Right now, with the way our economy is on a national level and a state level, there's so much pressure to reduce spending on education. And in science, that really hits us with the hands-on, with the laboratory experiences, right at a time when we really need to be introducing some of the technology into laboratory experiences, and how technologies like Excel can manipulate data and be used by students. And we manage, so far here at Oak Harbor High School, we're managing to pull in as much of that as we can, but it becomes more and more difficult to manage all of the things we want to try to do in the classroom to make science engaging and interesting and rigorous.
Probably the challenge, one that I face on a daily basis, is the amount of kids I have in my classroom. And I would imagine that it's going to be the same across the country where classroom sizes are getting larger. And so I figure with a 55-minute period, with 31 kids, 32 kids, I'm looking at less than 2 minutes I get to spend with every one of those kids that comes into my room. Then you put on, you got role and daily objectives and everything else that you do, and I get less than 60 seconds with a lot of these kids. And so you try to get around and make that connection with them every day, and it's tough. It's really tough to really try to relate with that kid and find out what's going on in their life, what challenges they're having, just with the classroom material. And you have a kid that's really struggling, you spend time with them, and now you have 30, 25 seconds with all the rest of the kids.
Classroom size. Absolutely. In terms of writing, the only thing that truly improves student writing, besides teaching them the formulaic side of it, is written feedback. When I was in school with a class of only 14 students, my teacher was able to teach me how to be a good writer through extensive feedback. With our class sizes, you cannot do that. The most a teacher can do reasonably is a comment or two on a paper, and that does not teach students how to write well enough, well as they need to. It doesn't teach them to address their own personal habits and mistakes that they have. But I think if we honestly and sincerely believe that all children deserve the right to develop intellectually, or even in trade, we would fund education fully, no matter what.
I remember growing up, and there was this value to education, and at times I feel like maybe there's lack of a value to it. Growing up from here, I see a lot of people, and I have a lot of friends who will say, I can't believe these kids today, and I try to tell them they're no different than when we were kids. They're just dealing with different problems, but everything we were, they are. And it's just being able to remember that, and remember they're not perfect, they're gonna make mistakes.
Teaching just a love of learning. If we could do that, then if we could really show students how to love learning, then there's no stopping them.
Funding, the funding, and supporting our schools, and I believe that the greatest gift that we can give a student is a public education. And coming into Oak Harbor in 1990 and just over the years watching the transformation of the buildings and the levies being able to provide the opportunities that we've been able to give students, it's magic. And just when you walk in this high school every day and you see what the students are exposed to from what it looked like before, I mean, what a gift. And then North Whidbey, you know, back in the day, what the students that went to North Whidbey Middle School looked like before they went into their new building. It's important, and so it requires money. It requires funding.
So something that's been hard for me has been student apathy. And I feel like we're working on it, and we're trying to build a culture in which the kids are really engaged and want to be here and have that sort of desire to learn. But it's still hard for me when there's a kid that comes in and just doesn't want to do anything. If there was anything that I could like wave a magic wand and fix, it would be to help those kids.
Okay, here's another way I feel about education. In a public school versus a private school, I wouldn't send my daughters to a private school if I had all the money in the world. I wouldn't do it because they grow up with the people here. This is who these are their peers. These are the people that are going to vote with them. And if I find that there's a problem in the school, then I need to help fix it. But I don't want to take them out of the mainstream because they're going to be put back in the mainstream. And I'd rather have them work with the school, make the school better. I always tell them, you don't have to like it, change it.
Testing. There's just too much testing. It takes the passion out of learning. It takes the fun out of learning. It doesn't. And I understand the need for it on the one hand, but it just needs to be different. So I've just got to find a better way to measure things and measure student learning and accountability. A lot of their days are spent actually testing. And I don't think a test is the best measure for all students on what they've learned.
Our priorities need to be in education. We need to prepare our next generation and look beyond our lifespan and look to our children's lifespan and their children's lifespan. And that hasn't always been a priority in America. And if there's one reform I could choose, it would be an attitude adjustment in our populace at large for where we need to place education.